Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Miguel Fernández from Psycho, and it's time for another exciting episode of the Mentor podcast. In this series, we're diving deeper into that Mentor project. Today, I'm really happy to introduce our guest, Nathan Coyle. Nathan is a digital activist and civic technologist. Right now, he serves as the senior PeaceTech advisor at the Austrian Centre for Peace. With this said, thank you for coming. How do you feel being here?
Oh, thank you so much, Miguel. It's always lovely to see you and working with you on the wonderful augMENTOR project. Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited.
Okay, I'm also really excited. So I already know you, and I think if our listeners have seen the Mentor project, they probably have seen you too. But maybe you could give us a brief summary about your professional background.
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Nathan Coyle, as Miguel has very eloquently introduced me. So my professional background, so I come from government policy. So what I used to do in my last job before I came to Austria was I used to write policy for governments. So usually I would have to go into a central government and they would have a problem with digital policy, mostly around open data. And I would kind of fix that policy and make it more human centric. So if they're writing policy, usually what happens is third sector aren't usually engaged in that kind of dialogue. And I used to go in and run hackathons and et cetera, et cetera. That kind of led me to writing a book. I had a book come out this year called Open Data for Everybody, Using Open Data for Social Good. Bit of a mouthful, I know, which is out now on Routledge. And then I came to Austria and started working in PeaceTech, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about soon.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, and I hope we can also talk about the book. Could you explain us what is to be peace tech advisor and also terms like peace building that you usually use in your presentations?
Okay, cool. So yeah, senior PeaceTech advisor. I wear many job hats here in Austria. So I work with the Austrian Centre for Peace, as you know, we work together, and I lead on PeaceTech there. And I also work for the Austrian Institute of Technology, and I sit on something called the EAB Cyber Board for the European Union. So if you want me to be honest with, well, like PeaceTech's a bit of a buzzword, and but I don't think it's a bad buzzword because anything that shines a light on using technology for peace is a really good thing. And obviously, we need some more of that in the world at the moment. When actual technological words come around, they're usually banded out into the corporate sector. And what usually happens is that overcomplicates it. As you said yourself, it's really good to like learn about how those people who are left behind and how actually getting their message to guide policy, and that's what I'm trying to do within PeaceTech. So in governments around the world, when they look at a new digital sphere, they will go and write policy and strategy. Again, you usually going with corporate sector, but with here in Austria, we want to kind of build PeaceTech as a community-owned thing, human-centric, and letting peace builders set the agenda. So peace building, it can mean many different things. You have people who are working in the field who is basically just an NGO, just a third sector organization. They wouldn't know that they're a peace builder. And that kind of goes all the way to diplomats and governments and etc. Where I'm interested in is what are the needs of peace builders and how can technology aid those needs? Because with peace builders, they aren't technically savvy. I think they would admit that. And they use a lot of low tech, old tech as well. And so if we're going to design projects around peace tech and we're not listening to those people, I always say it's pointless. I always say if peace tech isn't accessible, it is pointless. But there's literally no point to it whatsoever. And we a really big thing now about using peace building for artificial intelligence. But we're going to talk about AI in a bit, I'm sure. So I won't go there just yet.
Okay, I have a question. Why did you say then those are peace builders?
Peace build, like again, if they work in a conflict zone or a fragile state, I think for a lot of the time, a peace builder wouldn't really know that they're a peace builder or maybe even like to be called a peace builder. But that's how anyone who's working on the ground who's affecting peace is a peace builder. Now you have these different levels. So you'd have your government level. So you'd have your diplomats, different foreign offices, and all of that who will be working towards peace, building peace in the world. Now that's great. And I work with these people, but they're not my interest, basically. My interest is the those people on the ground, third sector organizations, activists, uh, peace builders, and what they need and how we can design better projects around them so they can actually use it for peace. Because the thing is, peace builders, it's not their job to be technical. It's not their job to be digitally minded. It's not their job to keep up on social trends. Their job is to build communities and build peace, bring people together, open dialogue. All I want to do is design tools or get, especially with the government of Austria, who I work with, to design tools to aid their work in peace building. So again, I know it's weird to say, forget about all the people with the suits and their fancy words and their fancy conferences and all that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in the human-centric stuff on the ground, the people who need that support and the people who are actually doing the good work, who are the experts. So takeout is less suits, more real people, and cutting out all of the BS.
So the book you wrote, the main goal and the main public and target is this kind of people, no?
No, not really. It's not so much about peace building. So open data for everybody was born out of working with all these different governments. So, I'd work with like the normal governments, like the United Kingdom, where I'm from, the United States, Brazil, Canada, and then in places like Colombia and all over different parts of Europe. But I also worked with fragile states and what you would class as post-conflict zones like Kosovo, Palestinian Authority, and North Macedonia, places like that. And basically what I would do is I would go into these countries and I would run hackathons and training. And basically I would use that as a form to build together policy driver documents, as they call. And so my biggest medium was designing training. So usually people wouldn't come if you said to people, hey, like, come and tell us about open data. Come and tell us about all the things that you want and we want to change. Nobody's going to turn up for that. But if you say, hey, come and learn about how you can use open data for you to be more agile, how you can use it for funding, capacity building, etc. And we got quite a lot of people coming through the door to do that. But while we would have those sessions, we would then run activities with them, so certain questions. And then I'd basically put that together with on-the-ground research, interviews, working with other different third sector organizations in the country. And then I'd put that together for policy recommendations for wherever government that is. The biggest problem with open data is if you look at it, like, it's very corporate. It looks like it has been designed by the business sector, academia at best. If you look at any open data portal in the world, you will be forgiven that it's actually a business in its own right, a corporate entity. That's really off-putting for third sector people. And, like, when you think of open data portals, it looks like they've been designed for business, for those people who wear the suits and say all this fancy language like social cohesion and all that kind of stuff, and not actually designed for the people who need it the most. Because I have a little bit of a story that, even though I'm lucky to be born in England, and I accept that, considering some of the places I have to work and how what people's lives are like. But no, I did come from quite a poverty-ridden background. I was from a town called Dudley in the Black Country, and my parents really depended on third sector organizations and charities to get by. And I would see a lot of these places go out of business, and really struggle for funding. I was like, well, like, what can we do? And then I found out about open data, and then like I kind of went to war a little bit with part of the talking about peace building, with different governments and with different agencies who release data, and say like, what? Why is it so overcomplicated? And then yes, we went to do all the government work and etc. I always say that my book, Open Data for Everybody, is a love letter to open data and its transformative change. And I just found that, with all of this work, working with third sector organizations, working with activists, the real problem wasn't that open data is technological or techie or not. It was the narrative. The narrative that was used, again, was really highly corporate. And that was so damaging. And but once you can actually explain to people that, you can use it for funding, as I just said, or capacity building, people get on board with it. And my book is basically, loads of different strategies, data compliance stuff, all the complicated, scary stuff, but then explain it in a real human way, not in a corporate way whatsoever. So people could just pick up the book and then run away with it. But it's not so much about PeaceTech or peace building, even though that some of the themes tie into each other. Like I do talk about peace building a little bit, but that was before I came to Austria to work in PeaceTech.
Okay, thank you so much. So in the end, it's like you train the groups and you do workshops related to open data, and then you also get input, which allows you to create new policy recommendations for these groups or communities.
Basically, that is how usually good policy is put together. So you run workshops, you would speak to people, you would gather different insights and different sectors and whatnot, and then you put that together in like a paper, and then you present that to government. Now, unfortunately, not everybody does that, and they kind of sidestep that process, and then they have working groups within different governments. But people, if you're doing policy well, that's how you should do it.
One question, maybe this is a bit hard one, but what policy recommendations are the ones that you create in the end?
It's not a hard question to. One of the things that really bothers me within, especially the tech sector and social innovation, is like the need to overcomplicate everything. And so my policy recommendations are always very, very simple. It's basically setting up steering groups within your different communities, or bringing in third sector organizations to your steering groups, recommendation groups from the local grassroots level, making sure that your language is actually understandable to people. Now, that might be a really obvious thing, but when you work with governments, they usually quite siloed working, and then they don't talk with each other. So, that's one of the recommendations that I could tell you with authority, that I've worked with international governments who have had people who led on open data, who didn't know how to understand, they didn't know how to explain it. And obviously what would happen is they would put down their policy narrative to the people they work with and chatter it down, but they're just basically telling their perception of open data, which is incredibly damaging. And so one of the policy recommendations in that scenario was ensuring a robust training for outreach staff, and including the head of centres and head of departments too. One of the things that I recommended to one government, and I won't mention who it is because they're quite a problematic leadership, was, look, you need to get everybody on side. So run training workshops across, invite local authorities, invite local third sector, and then your government heads of department and staff. And then basically the heads of staff are there to show that they have solidarity with the rest of the staff. But really the recommendation is like, that's how you get them there. That's how you teach them. And so it very, very varies. But most of the time when it came to my policy recommendations, they were very, very simple. Sometimes obvious, but sometimes you need to be told what the obvious is by someone who's outside of the looking glass.
I would love to keep talking about PeaceTech and all the roles that you've been working on, but we're here for a reason, which is the augMENTOR project. And I would like to know, what does the Austrian Centre for Peace and you play in this project? What's your role and how are you contributing to the augMENTOR?
Yeah. So our primary role is to look at events across the organization or the project, across the project. And so we have to look out for training opportunities and etc. But where we are really looking or coming into the phase of where we get really active is we're running policy events across Europe, and we're looking at how can we influence AI for training and education policy across Europe. So we're having all these wonderful events across Europe with our partners, our lovely, lovely partners across augMENTOR, who I am incredibly blessed and happy to work with. And then we're going to have an event in Brussels. I'm going to be doing some extra workshops around other parts of Europe that aren't in our coalition, let's say. I prefer coalition and consortium, because coalition is, people working together and having a great time. To not just design the fantastic, awesome tool that we're working on, but also have a lasting policy dialogue as well, which I'm really, really excited about. And if people want to learn more, or maybe even holding a policy workshop in their country, we have a policy event that we planned and put together as a whole toolkit. That'd be really amazing. And we want to kind of not just widen the conversation about using AI for education within our circles. We also want to kind of widen that dialogue to other people who aren't just part of the augMENTOR consortium. And as you know, Miguel, we have like a massive team, don't we? And we are incredibly lucky to have some amazing heads.
I agree with you. I think we have amazing people, and the project is going really well, and more because everyone is really grateful and really appreciating what each other's does. So I'm really happy about it. Also, it's nice to have you also, Nathan, and to understand the role. So you will do a lot of policy workshops, and then you will try to make like a policy recommendation also about AI in education and trying to integrate everyone's vision.
No, that's exactly what we're doing. So basically, we are with good policy. Again, we've talked about policy a lot in this podcast, haven't we? And in order to create good policy, you need to include a wide range of people. And we're lucky in augMENTOR because we have a wide range of people, backgrounds, different parts of Europe, who have different opinions, who have different skill sets. And what we want to do is we want those people to able to have a conversation and have a dialogue. And then we put all that together. We will run one last workshop in Brussels, and where we have like, instead of like in the country focus. So for example, if you do a workshop in Greece, that would be aimed at policy within Greece. If we have a workshop in Austria, that would be aimed at policy in Austria. And then when we have the last one, we'd have decision makers who can have a look at what's going on across Europe, and then they can put their own say into it. What will happen after that is, as you said very correctly, Miguel, is that I would put together a policy driver document. So it'd be like a paper, and then we'd send that to the European Union to see if we can get that enacted.
So, Nathan, what I wanted to know is if you are totally in favor of integrating AI, or do you think AI should be integrated in a specific way, or how do you see AI evolving in the future?
In regards to using AI for training and education, there's actually a lot of really worthwhile research and work happening, especially within the European Union and across the European Union, where we have quite a built-up infrastructure. But one of the issues is we're looking at AI for peace building now, especially within my work. And I don't think it is fit for purpose whatsoever. Because if I can throw some data at you, and I'm sorry to be a bit nerdy, but if you look at data that trains AI, so 90% of data that trains AI system comes from Europe and North America, and then 4% comes from Africa. So, but if you look at the conflict data that was last sampled in 2024, 43% of conflicts came from Africa. So you have this divide between the global north and the global south. Data is incredibly Western centric. I'm not even going to go into data bias. That's another rant for another day. You don't need to be a brain scientist to figure out that AI for peace building is nowhere near where it should be, and nowhere near where we're at the level where we should be building tools in order to aid that. Because if you look in Africa, for example, there's completely utterly different social cultures, languages, localized languages, and social norms. We can't be using AI for peace building just yet. So it's a bit of a double-edged question, or at least answer, Miguel, that, even though I do see the value in AI from our context, where we're very lucky to live in the global north, but from a global south context, there's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of work that we need to do as a community to help change that. And that's not us as Europeans telling people what to do, as in the European Union. It's listening to people in the global south and them telling us how we can support them, not just kind of jumping in there.
So thank you, Nathan, for sharing your last answer. I think for sure we should work more on making it inclusive for everyone, and I hope we will give it more importance in the future. Now, for the last part of the interview, I'm going to ask you some quick questions, and you should answer only with one word or maximum one sentence. What is PeaceTech in one sentence?
Using technology for peace and bringing about social cohesion.
Which stakeholder group do you think deserves more attention within the augMENTOR project?
Training providers. I do think we across augMENTOR that we have a very amazing academic outliner, and we have a brilliant organization, I think in Greece, working with in mental health. And but I do think training providers aren't usually that academic, and I do think some focus needs to be had on to making it more understandable for them. I know that's more than a sentence.
Okay, thank you. No, it's good. Don't worry. Question 3. What do you think makes a training or workshop unforgettable?
Exuberance, my friend. Making people feel wanted, making their values feel needed, and making sure people feel listened to, but also doing something with that feedback. Lots of people give you their amazing time, so ensure that you do something with it. Don't just at the end of the day you go home and then you write your little report and then that's it. Make sure that is used in a way that can benefit society.
What is one small digital habit that could improve our days?
Not using your phone so much. Have off time with your phone.
What's a key value promoted by augMENTOR that you personally identify with?
The value of, look, if something goes wrong, there's always people there to support you, and you always learn from mistakes, and augMENTOR has bags of people who will always back you up, and they sometimes carried me, I couldn't wish for a better team.
Why should students care about AI in education?
Because it makes our job easier, unfortunately. I think AI in education is going to change how they learn radically. But also there's two sides to this. You get, yes, it makes your life easier, but also your education is going to change. Like, especially in United Kingdom, for example, when you pay like £20,000 a year, you need to ensure that you're going to have the best education possible. So it's making sure that you keep on top of that, because your learning is more valuable than people saving money and streamlining how education is run.
What excites you most about how augMENTOR will look in the final months?
Well, I'm really excited about our policy events, but I'm going to say that obviously. But I'm really looking forward to closing the project up in a really valuable way and making sure that we all keep these connections together. Because again, Miguel, as you know yourself, we have a very excellent team, and I'm not just saying that 'cause I'm on a podcast. I'm very lucky to have these people in my corner.
What is one lesson other European projects could learn from augMENTOR?
Oh, you know what I'm going to say? You can learn from our collaborative nature, our excellent team, and how we've really integrated with each other. We all come from different cultures, different languages, but I really love meeting up with my augmenter people. As you know, Miguel, we have a great laugh when we have our consortium meetings, and that's rare. That is not something that's normal, and people can learn a lot from our team ethic.
Yeah, I think that's the basis and the roots and the most important part of the augMENTOR and what makes augMENTOR to be successful as well. So Nathan, it has been a pleasure to be with you in this podcast. Before we close, is there anything you would like to leave our audience with, like final thought or message?
Yeah, always be inquisitive, always question what is put in front of you, and especially when it comes to AI in education, we do need tools that are designed to help us with our capacity, but we also need to make sure that it is human-centric and designed with people in mind. So always question, never accept anything, and always want better.
Nice. Thank you so much. I think I learned about this podcast. I hope our listeners have learned too. To the listeners also, stay tuned for more episodes as we keep unpacking the future of AI in education. You'll be listening to Nathan Coyle from the Austrian Centre for Peace and Miguel Fernández from Psycho. See you next time.
Bye, bitch bouts.